Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Podcast Strikes Back. My name is George, and you're listening to the weekly movie show with the boys Connor and Benny.
Hi there.
Folks, we have a stacked episode for you this week. And just a full disclaimer for anyone looking for D23 news, we have a whole podcast dedicated to that. Tons of Star Wars news and awesome stuff. So head on over to that one. But this episode, we have a ton of awesome stuff, including a lot of news that came out last week about Tom Holland and Sony and Disney and Spider-Man. We've also got to catch up on the Matrix film announcement and a few trailers as well. And our boy Connor is back from his trip to Canada. How was it, bro?
It was really good.
Yeah.
I've heard that about Canada.
It was spectacular. I
Saw some wilderness.
saw some wilderness, did some hikes,
Beautiful. Saw the fam.
saw the fam, got engaged, shit like that.
Whoa.
You saw the fam.
Why are you acting surprised?
Saw a tree.
I told you like 20. Yeah.
Congrats, man.
Thank you very much.
How exciting.
It is very exciting.
So,
Can you not tell from my... Sorry.
can people hear your smile on your face?
Yep.
But, we've also got to catch up on what you watched on the plane
More
ride.
importantly.
The important stuff, yeah.
More
We can
important.
talk about the engagement ring and all that, but
Who gives a shit?
What was the plane ride like, and what films did you dial in?
Okay. Strap yourselves in.
Oh boy.
I watched Pet Sematary.
Pet Sematary.
Yeah, look, I thought this movie had a lot of potential. I haven't
The
seen
new
the
one,
original.
yeah? Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
yeah.
new one. I haven't watched the original. Watched this one. Thought there was really cool premises. Thought there was a really good setup. Just didn't quite stick a landing, I suppose.
Totally.
I totally get what you guys were talking about when you saw it around the sister stuff being so much creepier than the main
Anything
storyline.
else, yeah.
And that's kind of distracting because you're like,
Go back to that.
the main, like that's a movie in and of itself. Just do fucking that. I kind of felt that there was a really cool setup and then a little bit of a like everything just kind of tumbled away at the end.
Yeah, I honestly felt like it ended 20 minutes early. Like it really snuck up on me. I was like, oh, okay, credits, bye.
Yeah,
you guys
exactly.
know how much I fall asleep in the cinema and whatnot. I love a fast movie, and this one felt like it just boom over, and it felt like the narrative hadn't completed.
But I mean, like that's a fast movie can be like a really slow paced movie for an hour and then just like stopping. That's a short movie, but that doesn't mean it's well paced.
Exactly. So it's all dictated on the flow of the film.
Yeah, it was all over the place. So that was I watched that. I also watched Creed 2, which I
never
really
saw that
enjoyed.
one.
I really enjoyed that. I think that there was a sentiment that it wasn't quite up to the heights of the first one. I think that there was a lot of expectation on this, but I don't know whether it was the setting that I was watching it at, like, because I was just on a plane. But I had a thoroughly good time with this, and I thought that they did a little bit of an interesting twist with the bad guy, so to speak, in this.
Dolph Lundgren's son, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the actor's name. Big dude.
He's not an actor, isn't he? Just a fighter? Isn't he an actual fighter?
I have no idea. I have no idea who he is. But yeah, I really enjoyed that film. I thought it was pretty solid.
I came so close to watching that on my last flight a couple months ago.
Have you seen it yet?
No.
I think it is worth checking.
I really want to see it. I just never got around to it. And I don't know. I feel like it's just going to permanently fall into the thing I have
Not as good
with
as-
Rocky as well, because I've never seen a sequel to Rocky except Creed, sort of. And so now I'm just never going to watch a sequel to that either until I do
you
another
could get away
spin-off.
with you could get away with never seeing it, and you haven't really missed anything. I think Creed works kind of perfectly as its own thing.
Is there room for a Creed 3?
What do you mean by is there room for?
I mean,
If you can make 6 Rockies, I'm sure you can eke out another one.
It's really comparative. Like,
okay, let me rephrase.
they made
Does the
6
narrative-
Transformers. Doesn't mean there was room for it.
Does it feel like the film ends on a note that sort of propelled the story forward, or is it kind of closed off ending?
No, I don't think that this really sets itself up for a sequel. I mean,
Okay.
the first one didn't really set itself
totally
up for a
didn't.
sequel. But
No.
I mean,
I was very surprised.
This doesn't feel unnatural. There is a little bit of, because this movie mirrors the Rocky 2 so closely, that it kind of falls into the trap of being a little bit too similar. But otherwise, I think that it's really good. All right, moving on. I want to give a quick shout out to on the way back, because I was flying Air Canada. It had like this old kind of comedy series that I used to watch when I was in Canada. It's, if you ever want to watch a series that is the most Canadian thing, but also actually just genuinely funny, it's called Corner Gas with Brent Butt. It's fucking hilarious. That name is amazing. Yeah.
It's called Carrie-Ann.
It's like it is. If I don't know if
like sort of family humor, or is it like a children's show?
No,
or?
It basically takes place in this small Saskatchewan town. It just kind of revolves around the humor. I don't know if you've ever been to a small Canadian town in the prairie, like it's that. But it's humor. Like, it's really quite funny. I had to give a little bit of shout out to that, because I was watching it on the plane, being like, I haven't watched this in 10 years, and it's amazing. I love it.
Revisiting those ones of your childhood, it is pretty funny, isn't it?
All right, moving on. Jesus, it's a few I have to get through. I watched If Beale Street Could Talk.
Nice.
I really enjoyed this film because it was an excellently made film. It was weird in the sense that this movie was all about tone. The plot, I suppose, if you could call it that, there wasn't really much to it. It just kind of, it felt like at the end of it that I had just followed something that had happened.
Yeah, it was more the emotion of it than
Yeah,
the
exactly.
story.
I guess the best word for it is haunting, because it was all about tone. It was all about just kind of the pacing was incredibly just. It was. I'm trying to think of the word. It was consistent, I suppose, is one word to describe it, but just like it bared down on you as this kind of like slow, constant, just here's things that are happening. Here are things that you should be feeling, and it's kind of like almost like poetry. It really didn't matter what they were saying. It was kind of more about how they said it.
You know that scene Brian Tyree Henry has about talking about his time in jail? Like
oh
monologue?
yeah, that's
Holy
gripping.
fuck. It's just the camera on him for a few minutes. And it's absolutely heartrending. And the score in that movie as well is unbelievable.
The score is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Sound mixing / the sound design is really good. But at the end of it, you're kind of, I don't know, it was a weird feeling at the end of it. I was like, what did I just watch? Like, what, or more, it was weird. I was kind of wondering, like, why did I just watch that? There was no denying that it was beautiful and all that. But I was just like, what was the point?
Yeah, that I'm really keen to watch that one, and I think you've got to check out Moonlight, the film he
Definitely.
did.
That's
Either one or
been,
two before.
Yeah, that's been one that's been on my list for ages.
Yeah,
and not for the lack of trying on Ben's part to get me to watch that movie. But yeah, it's on there. Okay, in a complete 180, I watched next Super Troopers 2.
Oh boy.
Which I thought I would hate because I really enjoyed Super Troopers 1. It's not good, but it is. It holds a bit of a spot in my heart as this kind of dumb comedy that I watched and quoted a lot as a kid. Have either of you seen the original?
Nope.
I
saw it ages ago.
Yeah, I have a suspicion that you would hate it. Because it feels like one of those movies that you kind of had to be there.
Yeah,
Yes, it's like Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you'd go to school and you'd quote it, and you'd like, that was kind of what made that movie so special. So
I did the worst thing possible, and I rewatched Basketball.
Oh wow!
And this wasn't any time recently.
Yeah,
but I just remembered to
it
myself.
was 2 weeks after it came out.
Wow,
You're like, oh no,
that was so much better when I was 7.
Yeah.
Or whatever year that was.
That's spectacular.
Yeah.
So yeah,
just leave it in the past.
Yeah. So I watched the second one thinking like, this is going to be absolute shit. And I think maybe it was because I went into it with that mindset, but it was far better than I thought it had any right to be. It was still dumb humor, but I found myself chuckling at it, which is again more than I thought I would do. Again, I don't know if I would like recommend it to anyone because I feel very nervous about like how much of that is a bit of nostalgia and the jokes that you would get because you enjoyed the first one. Almost laughing out of, some kind of sense of weird duty or
Yeah, if
Good try, guys.
it's like, I support this, but don't make any more films. So that was I watched that. Oh, all right, I've got 3 more. Here we go. I rewatched Aquaman, which is something I didn't think I would do.
I've been wanting to do that recently.
I suggest doing it.
Yeah,
It was a really enjoyable rewatch.
Yeah.
How long are these flights?
The way there is 14 and a half hours. The way back is 15 and a half hours.
Oh, God, horrid.
Yeah, like they're long flights.
Anyway, yes, Aquaman.
I didn't watch a damn thing. I know I watched 1 episode of Serenity or of Firefly. While I was there, because I was so busy, I just didn't have any time to do anything. But so I rewatched Aquaman, and there's a couple of things that stood out. First of all, is this movie is a fun time. Like, that is the main thing that you kind of get out of this. It's like it's enjoyable. It's
entertainment.
It is the quintessential entertainment.
Yeah.
It's also fucking gorgeous.
It's one of the best visual effects showcases ever made.
Oh my God.
And the variety of creatures. I remember the standing out of the innovation and just like the
design.
Yeah.
And the color.
Design, the color,
Stunning.
The scope as well.
And Georgie, mate, like I know you love your hair and all that. Like the hair effects while they're underwater is so spectacular. Just even the movement that captivated me. The way that they made human beings in water look natural, I thought was so spectacular. It still suffers from all the things that I think we criticized it when we first watched it, which was kind of like the plot is a little bit all over the place. The just things that happen. I really don't like Amber Heard in it. I think she's terrible. I think just like her whole plot and everything is just there's nothing to it. But yeah, like everything else about that movie just seemed to work in a weird sort of way. And so I was like, yeah, it's a really enjoyable rewatch.
Yeah, well, I remember like whenever people ask me about something to watch, and it's kind of like somebody who's not into movies at the level we are, for some reason I say Aquaman. I've said that like 3 or 4 times.
Really?
Yeah, because I've just been like, that is, if you want that popcorn, you're looking for something.
Chuck on a film.
Yeah.
It's kind of in that Star Wars mold in a way. Like kind of blockbustery, something for everyone.
And Momoa's he's just perfect for that role. It's built for him.
Mimosa. Is that what you said?
No.
What did you say?
Momoa.
No, you did. There's an S in there somewhere.
We'll listen to the playback. We're recording this.
I would hope
Wait,
so.
we're recording this?
Otherwise, we're just 3 dickheads talking to each other into mics.
Hey,
George has been lying to us for the last 2 years. He has never put an episode out. It's just us talking
I
to
maintain
each
that
other.
the 3 of us sitting in a room talking to each other is less embarrassing than us recording it, all right?
It probably is. No, the embarrassing part is that we're like acting as though we are like putting this out into the ether or something.
George has been introducing our conversations to nobody for 3 years.
George just wanted friends to come over, and he's
or you listen back and it pauses and you hear my little commentary. That's Connor saying something dumb again. Roll film.
Oh fuck. All right, sorry. So yeah, Aquaman, really fun rewatch. I also watched The Hummingbird Project, which was the movie about the guys that wanted to do the fiber optic cable to something about the stock exchange with
Is that Alexander Skarsgård?
and Alexander Skarsgård and fuck, what's his name? Lex Luthor and
Jesse Eisenberg.
Jesse Eisenberg. Thank you.
Jesse.
This movie was another one of those ones where I was like, why did I just watch that? There was
Because that was a cool trailer.
It was a cool trailer, and
I love the look of Sarsgaard.
there was Skarsgård was awesome in it. Jesse Eisenberg was awesome in it. Like all the characters were really good, and the story was pretty gripping. But like at the end, I was kind of like, I just don't feel like there was a the movie kind of surprised me at certain points where I was like, oh, that's a bit of a throwback, or like it just kind of seemed like the story was making sense, I suppose. But at the end of it, I was kind of like, that felt a little bit like a waste of time.
feel like part of this feeling may be coming from the malaise that comes with flying.
Yeah, and
being just out of space and out of
deprivation
time.
of sleep.
Yeah.
I was like, Aquaman's the greatest movie
Why
ever!
am I doing any of this right now? Where am I?
Connor, why do you have your eyes taped open?
Open the emergency exit.
Yeah. What is life? Why am I watching films? Bye.
Were you using your new headphones? The noise cancelling ones?
They're not new, but yes, I was.
Okay, nice.
Those are
because that makes a huge difference.
Oh my
Because I
God.
think half the reason why I get so tired on the plane is just the low frequencies smashing you for 12 hours.
Yeah, those headphones. It's the Sony WMX H100
It's
or
got
whatever
a horrible
the fuck it is.
name.
Yeah, I was like that. Their marketing department. Yeah,
X7.
the marketing department for Sony needs to be like immediately fired.
No.
But those headphones are fucking amazing. And I remember I was on a flight to Brisbane and I watched Arrival on my like kind of the bigger MacBook and with those headphones, and that's what made that experience acceptable. Like that was just the sound quality on that was so good. All right, finally, I watched Robin Hood. With
Ridley Scott's Robin Hood?
No.
Oh, the Taron Egerton one?
Yeah. You know which one, Ben.
Is that movie called Robin Hood?
Say it. I think it is.
Legend of the Thieving.
Or something like that. That movie was, we slammed the trailers. I think we vowed never to watch it. I mean, there was...
Yep.
That was dead in the water before it ever began. So once again... I think that had a large part to play in the fact that I enjoyed that more than I should have or thought I would. Again, by no means a great film. It suffers from that sheen that, when you watch a movie that is meant to be set in some kind of historic time, but looks very clearly like it was designed in 2019, and it just makes your brain go, that's not right. That feels weird.
The costuming definitely plays into that.
Yeah, exactly. Like
It's too clean. It doesn't have that worn look.
Exactly. Like the costuming doesn't look right. The design of the towns doesn't look right. Like just the way that people interact with each other is just very clearly a modern take on an old story set in an old town. And I mean, like that's one of the
There's
things.
no time travel mechanic or anything.
Yeah, no, exactly right.
Parallel reality.
And whether you think that the Ridley Scott was good or version of Robin Hood was good or bad, I think you have to admit that felt as though it belonged in the time that it was presenting, whereas this one didn't. But I really thought that Taron Egerton, is that his name? Yeah, Taron Egerton is so unbelievably charming that there's a big part of it that kind of
Rides on the coattails of him. Almost.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you're just watching a bad film, but the character or one of the actors is just kind of pulling you along. You're like, all right, like fine, fuck it. Yeah. And there was some like cool kind of twists on the original story that were enough to keep me entertained, and the action was good enough to kind of keep me entertained. I think, bear in mind, I was horrifically sleep deprived by this point. But it's weird that movie ended up being far more enjoyable than I thought it would be. As long as you go into it with the idea that it's not a good film.
Ever.
It's not a good. No, I would definitely say it's not the worst thing.
I would say, but you go into it with the idea that it's the worst thing ever, and you're like, "Hey, that was a solid 4 out of 10. I'm pretty happy with that."
Dare I say it? Even a 5 out of 10.
Wait, let's not get crazy.
But yeah, like it was. It's when you need trash, and your brain is just not functioning on a high enough level to accept anything other than trash. That's the perfect movie for you.
Yeah, I watched Igor on a flight a while back. That Daniel Radcliffe one.
Okay, yeah,
it might have been Max Landis. That was a perfect plane movie.
Yeah,
in that it's terrible.
So I've just taken up a half an hour of the podcast to go through
films
that I watched.
Awesome.
And none of them in any detail. They were all just like...
That's just a movie that I watched.
Surprisingly good, surprisingly bad. All right, move on.
Benny, movies watched last week.
Go. So I got to watch a very personal favorite of mine, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990, on the big screen on a 35mm print, which was really cool. It's only the second time I've seen it on the big screen. And man, I probably watch that movie yearly. It's one of those ones that, you have those movies that just kind of intrinsic to you. It's just my happy place in a lot of ways. I can watch that movie and just completely ignore all of its faults.
I haven't seen that film in probably, like at least 15 to 20 years.
Yeah, I'd say 20 years for me.
Yeah, and I would say there's no real reason to go back if you're not a huge fan. Like, I'm a crazy Ninja Turtles fan, so that was just a mainstay of my
It's like a
growing
crazy Ninja Turtles fan, or like a crazy Ninja Turtles
I'm
fan?
a crazy Ninja Turtles fan. Yeah. The stuff that does really hold up is how faithful it is to the original story. The creators, Eastman and Laird, had a huge creative role in the film. So it's a really solid adaptation of the original comics. And of course, Jim Henson's Creature Shop worked on the animatronic costumes for the turtles themselves. And my God, when those are firing on all cylinders, they look amazing.
Yeah,
better than any CGI creation.
I was watching, read an article, and by read an article, I mean I saw a headline talking about how the original Ninja Turtles were meant to be like incredibly dark, or at least far darker than they ended up being. Have you ever? Is that something that's in the comics in the early days, or is that something?
Yeah,
concept?
it's really overstated. The original comics were black and white, a little bloody. They weren't like the 1987 cartoon in any way, but it was a parody of Frank Miller's Daredevil comics.
Oh, okay.
Like, in Daredevil he fights the Ninja Clan the hand. And in Turtles it's the foot.
Okay.
It literally is just a parody of the grim and gritty, like Frank Miller Daredevil thing. So it's very tongue in cheek. Like they're still turtles.
Yeah.
But
I guess the reason that I bring that up is that is kind of as a question. Like, would you ever like to see a gritty Ninja Turtles?
No, not at all. I think that the tone that most of the movies has struck is perfect for them. The movies, when they work, really focus on the character. And the characters, and that when they take that seriously, it doesn't matter how ridiculous the premise gets, because that's the main thing. It's always about the character and the family. And even the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles, whatever year that was, that really took the characters seriously, which surprised me, and I quite like that movie for it. But
it's funny that he never directed them, but they're still the Michael Bay.
I know, it's the Michael Bay Turtles. I've gotten into that discussion so many times. Yeah, the darkest that it's gotten is exactly where it should be. It should never go back to like Secret of the Ooze levels of Vanilla Ice popping in for no reason and doing a rap with them. That's when it's terrible. But no, I think they've already made the perfect one with that first one for me. So, yeah.
Cool.
I've got to borrow that Blu-ray off you, bro.
I don't know. That's one of my favorite Blu-ray. It's like a pizza box with the first 4 movies in it.
Oh, cool.
So I'm probably not going to give it to you.
Never to be seen again.
It's my favorite Blu-ray.
I'll be renting that one. Thanks, Apple. This week I watched a movie that I've never seen before, Interview with the Vampire.
Nice.
Have you guys seen this?
Have you never seen that?
I've never seen it.
Oh, wow.
And
Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
At some of their best. Some of their best, man.
Yeah, well, especially at the time, Tom Cruise doing a role like that was very different for him.
This is something, I don't think I've ever seen Tom Cruise like this, other than that caricature he did in, what was that jungle movie?
Tropic Thunder.
Tropic Thunder.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's always kind of Tom Cruise.
Yeah, and this is like a rock star vampire.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Antonio Banderas as well.
Yeah, totally. It's Kirsten Dunst as well as a little kid. Yeah. This reminded me a lot of Count of Monte Cristo. Like, it's kind of that sweeping story that spans a long period of time. And I thought that I thought the way vampires are portrayed in this is so awesome. It feels really tangible. It feels very real. I just thought the mythos they presented in this film was spot on. And then the interview mechanism with Brad Pitt talking about his life, and then you're going through these different timelines and these experiences. Like, I really felt like I'd kind of experienced a lot of time without the film getting labored and dragging. So I thought that was really successful. Like, the tone and the ideas it was evoking. And, some of the themes in here, it's really, really interesting stuff, especially Kirsten Dunst's character, the never to grow up. And I'm sure there's so much subtext here, which is not really even subtext. But yeah, man, I'm just glad I watched that movie. I had a great time with it. And it's just one of those films that I've kind of left by the wayside, and I need to go through and kind of clean that up.
Yeah, nice.
So I can be legit on
So
this
you'll
podcast.
you'll be watching Gladiator then.
Never. That's one for the grave. That's one for the grave.
Don't watch the sequel though.
I want to
Semi-sequel.
I want to. Isn't there a graphic novel coming out of the potential sequel that he was writing with Nick Cave or something?
Oh no,
no, he's
sorry,
talking about Interview with the Vampire.
Queen of the Damned.
Oh,
I think isn't there a trilogy?
Is it interesting at all? Because it's a
I haven't
completely
seen it.
different production company.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing.
I've watched about half or like 20 minutes of it.
Oh, it must be good.
It's not. I would not recommend it. Like, I mean, it was kind of. You get some people that quite enjoy it because of the mythos that it brings up, but it's
pretty different.
Yeah, it doesn't tonally fit with the first. It's much more about the kind of.
Watch anything else, Georgie?
Anyways.
Negative.
One of those recommendations I sent you?
I actually watched XX.
Oh yeah.
And I love the first story. Now this is an all-female directed
Or anthology.
Yeah. Love the first story with the kid that didn't eat. And the family, and then one by one. That was a really cool story.
Yeah.
I just thought the other ones felt like almost like a first film.
I loved the last one that involved the son of the devil, the Antichrist or whatever.
Oh yeah,
I really, because that was Karen Kusama, I think. Who did The Invitation.
Oh right, I mean she's awesome, man.
Yeah,
I don't know. It just
The Invitation.
It didn't feel. I wanted to like it more than I did.
that's anthology movie, so it's always a mixed bag. Yeah.
But that one with don't you remember the guy on the train and he shows the kid looks in the box?
Yes, and he stops eating.
Yeah,
that's such a great concept.
That was awesome. So I did watch one of your recommendations. You fucking asshole.
Just checking up on you.
I've got like a checklist every week. I'm like, did you watch that?
I need to know. I need to know what to cross off the list.
I told you.
My wall at home is just
I
movies
just wanted
for
to also
George.
say that I'm getting to watching The Invitation. I know you've been recommending it to me, so I just I appreciate you looking out for me.
As long as you watch it in the next 7 years, we're good.
On to the news. All right.
Ben's dying inside.
Hour 3 of the podcast. Starting with some very big contentious news. Sony and Disney have not been able to negotiate a renewal for their Spider-Man partnership, meaning that Tom Holland's Peter Parker no longer makes appearances in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, nor will MCU characters appear in new Spider-Man films. So let me just run through a few details of this because this has been a very ongoing story. Initial reports stated that Disney asked for a co-financing, co-revenue jump from 5%, which they got on the last couple of films, to 50%. And this was kind of later updated by some sources to being 25%. A little later in the week, Sony came out with a quote. Much of today's news about Spider-Man has mischaracterized recent discussions about Kevin Feige's involvement in the franchise. We are disappointed, but respect Disney's decision not to have him continue as lead producer of our next Spider-Man film. We hope this might change in the future, but understand that the many new responsibilities that Disney has given him, including all their newly added Marvel properties, so they'll be talking about Fantastic Four and the X-Men, do not allow time for him to work on IP they do not own. Feige responded to this news. It was a dream I never thought would happen. It was never meant to last forever. We knew there was a finite amount of time that we'd be able to do this, and we told the story we wanted to tell, and I'll always be thankful for that. So there's a lot to process there.
Yeah, so this dropped literally like hours after our last week's podcast. Which I was disappointed about, but I'm glad that we've got all the details now. We can kind of talk about this from a more complete picture.
Yeah. So a few months ago, rumblings came out about the deal that Sony and Marvel had, and a little nugget that if Spider-Man Far From Home didn't cross the $1 billion mark, then the rights would just go straight back to Sony, and the deal would end. And it smashed that $1 billion mark. So everyone was pretty sure that this was a safe bet moving forward.
Well, it kind of seemed like a no-brainer. Even if there weren't kind of contractual things where it would revert automatically or anything like that, it seemed like
everyone wins.
Everyone wins if this deal continues, and in particular, Sony seems to have the most to lose if that deal doesn't, or if that connection is broken.
Now, an important facet of this to keep in mind, I think, is that this initial information definitely feels like it's out there because someone wants it to be out there. Because this wasn't an official release from any studio or anything. This was just some insider knowledge that must have been leaked by someone. Now, do you guys think this would be more in Disney or Sony's interest?
Well, I mean,
Disney's
Sony put out a statement.
Yeah, so Disney probably wanted this out there. Because
Well, so I'll give you an
initially everyone
example.
was like, Sony, you idiots.
So I went on to Sony, I think it's whatever their Instagram handle is, like Sony Film or Sony Entertainment.
Which apparently Tom Holland has unfollowed.
Oh, has he really?
Yeah,
Apparently,
I
yeah.
heard that. Yeah.
And I went through, this is kind of just after it broke. I went through all their old posts because they released an Instagram, both Marvel and Sony released a post about like own the DVD now for Spider-Man. I was like, ooh, bad timing. But I looked at all their old posts, and their posts get anywhere from 100 to 300 comments per post, right? Absolutely nothing special. This one, in like a day, had received 38,000. So I mean, like many times more than what they would normally receive, and it was like 100%. I scrolled down these comments for a while, and granted, internet comments are usually the worst, but it was unanimously like, "Fuck you, Sony."
Yeah.
Like they received
In the sentiment.
So
much
that's
vitriol.
why I think with that statement that Sony came out with saying this is all Disney, that's their PR team saying we need to tighten this up and we need them to sway the narrative in our direction.
and I don't think it worked. To be fair,
I think
I think
there are
it
a lot
did
of- there are-
actually. It did
Really?
for me.
There are a lot of people out there who are seeing Sony right now as the little guy, funnily enough, in this like David versus Goliath thing, because this insane conglomerate that Disney has become. They're like,
Yeah.
yeah, someone finally stuck it to them, and it's something they can't buy.
Totally. So
but I
do
mean,
you-
like it's a bit silly in the fact that Disney in this case holds all the cards.
Yeah, so maybe it was a bit of a dick move to ask for that much more money, considering they already have all the merchandising rights.
and the domino effect of them just having creative control of Spider-Man, even if they only take 5% of the 1.4 billion or whatever the hell Far From Home made.
Yeah, now this,
integrating him into the Avengers,
yeah,
having him turn up in Civil War, that's a more powerful thing for them than that extra revenue.
yeah, I don't know if this, especially when they have the merchandising rights. Like if Sony tanks this franchise, fuck. Because I honestly think, and this might be at odds with what you said before, I think that the MCU has more to lose with Spider-Man getting taken out than Spider-Man has with not having the connection in his own movies.
Because the groundwork's there. Tom Holland's been established. Evidently, they want to bring John Watts back.
Yeah,
to direct.
both
for
studios
Spider-Man.
are
both
vying
studios
for
are
him.
fighting over him because clearly he works well with them. Because I think the Spider-Man movies are so strong, and I would honestly be really happy to see the new one not be about Tony Stark again. Like I would love to just watch Spider-Man movies. That's such a rich world in its own right. This is not commenting on whether or not Sony can pull it off or what creatives they bring into it. But
On a conceptual level, Spider-Man just doing Spider-Man is fine. Like I have no issues with that.
Do you guys have issues with Tom Holland bumping into Tom Hardy in Spider-Man 4?
I don't like that.
I've said several times I'd be happy to see Venom and Spider-Man on screen together. I think that could be really
I think
fun.
if Venom 2 is as good as I think and as I'm cooking it up in my mind to be, when there's no movie that I
You're
can even
cooking it,
watch
all right.
right now, I think that we could be onto someone here, guys.
So
And if-
I disagree.
If
surprisingly.
Morbius knocks it out of the park as much as I'm very sure it
If
will,
these 7 movies
I am
knock it out of
positive.
the park, we're in a good place.
No, look, the two universes don't kind of fit tonally for me. In my mind it's too weird, like to have, and I'm kind of surprised that Marvel allowed, or like Disney allowed, for the possibility of the Tom Holland character or the Tom Holland Spider-Man to continue without them. Like that to me is
they would have had any say in that really.
well.
Sony owns the film rights,
They own the film
and
rights,
he signed on with them
for Spider-Man, but
Yeah,
I'm
and Tom Holland
surprised that they
signed on.
didn't-
Tom Holland is signed on with
Yeah,
Sony.
with Sony, but I'm
Yeah.
surprised that that Marvel didn't have some clause in their contract saying that if he appears in, or if Tom Holland appears in the
right.
MCU, then he
can't
cannot
take
appear as Spider-Man
Okay.
in your own thing. Like you can do a
Right.
I
Spider-Man
imagine
film.
Sony was like hell bent on that being like their main thing. Is like we own every aspect of this still.
Yeah, well,
You
everyone's
can't buy that off
praising
us.
how tight Sony's contract is.
Yeah.
They have all the leverage in this situation. All the protection, all their licensing of the characters under there.
Yeah, clearly Disney wants
Control.
everyone to think that Sony was just like they said no to the deal. Sony's come out and said that they want everyone to think that Kevin Feige has too much on his plate elsewhere, and Disney doesn't want him working on Spider-Man anymore. So it's a lot of
that to
said,
me seems the far less likely of the cases. Like, I mean, the idea that Feige wouldn't work on Spider-Man,
oh yeah, totally, yeah,
is utter bullshit.
But the idea that Disney wouldn't want him working on it, I could buy a little bit more. Like, I could see them being like, no, we've got all this stuff back now. Focus on this. Like, stop making that for them. And maybe they're like, you can still do it if we get this 50% split.
But that makes sense then. And like, to be honest, if they're only getting 5% of that movie, that's a pretty raw deal. Like, I mean, even with
all the merchandising, right? That is so much more. That is so much more than
you think
the
that's
film
$1 billion
grosses. Spider-Man toys?
Oh.
Are you kidding me?
I have no idea what that kind of.
They would get that in lunchboxes.
$1 billion in lunchboxes.
$1 billion in lunchboxes.
I'm gonna call bullshit on that one.
They cost $200,000 each.
Solid gold Spider-Man lunchboxes.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So we mentioned that both companies are fighting over John Watts. Sony very much should bag him, whatever it costs. And the writers from the previous two films are currently working on Sony's Spider-Man 3. Yeah. So it's very much potentially going to be the same series.
And does John Watts, does he work well outside of that MCU sandbox where you've got Kevin Feige helping you, you've got this whole team, like how does he work in Sony? Does he get that same level of shepherding that I'm presuming in my mind that he got on the last two Spider-Man films?
What were those emails that leaked around, like Feige's comments on
the Amazing Spider-Man 2, yeah.
Which is like, this guy, you have to admit that his involvement in these movies is something significant, because the notes that he was giving on the Amazing Spider-Man were like it's just note for note what all the fans hated about that movie. We're like, you got to fix this, and that.
It's insight. Like, you can see how insightful he is.
Yeah,
and I honestly think, given his passion, that he would do that again for this next
would,
Spider-Man 3. Like, he would still have a hand in it, even if it was not an official
listen
capacity.
To him or not. And Sony feels like the kind of company that wouldn't.
No, but I mean, he'd be talking directly to like John Watts and the writers. He'd be like, I'm still on board. Yeah. Got your back.
No, look, I think that this spells a lot of trouble for Sony, because even there's so many unintended consequences of that. So can they reference the snap? And is it not snap?
They were never going to again.
I mean, all right. Well, I mean,
after what they did. So
how many characters can they not reference? What's his best friend's name?
Dingleberry.
Old mate Dingleberry.
Are you talking about Ned?
Yeah. Is he owned by?
No, they're all Spider-Man characters. Yeah. All of the cast of the Homecoming franchise would be
Sony's.
Completely intact. Yeah.
Okay. So they can never mention Tony Stark or the Snap or
Happy Hogan.
Yeah, it's weird, eh?
Which is a real huge shame, because I loved that Happy Hogan was getting involved in that. Are they? Fuck. See, this is the weird stuff. Like, how much of what has happened? Not even just like they can own characters in that, but how much of what has happened in the MCU universe can they reference as well?
Zero.
So is it just blank slate from here on in?
No, it's Aunt May. It's the kids.
He will never mention the fact that he was talking to Nick Fury. Like, that to me.
Maybe some weird illusions that but there's no way Disney are going to say you can use our IP.
Well, exactly. But that's
what
my thing.
constitutes as IP? Maybe there's a bit of gray area around there. But he's not going to say Tony Stark. He's not going to say Iron Man. He's not going to say, oh, I miss the Avengers.
Yeah, and I honestly don't think he really would anyway.
I'm quietly optimistic that...
Yeah, I'm
quietly optimistic that the sump with the injection of Spider-Man can actually become a legitimate cinematic universe.
I am not.
I think, the strength of these previous Spider-Man movies has been so great that I would have... Like I said... when we reviewed Far From Home, I was like, I want to see one of these every year. And if that could be achieved with this being its own series, separate from that, I don't really mind. I really like these movies, these creatives. They keep them all involved. And this is still a developing story. Everyone's
could be 180 next week.
Everyone's been
100%.
saying this is negotiating through the press, which it absolutely is. the outrage behind this has been so strong that I don't think this is the end of Spider-Man in the MCU, whether that takes 10 years or whatever.
I honestly thought, how long did it take James Gunn thing to resolve? Like 8 months?
Yeah.
6 months?
Of solid reporting?
Honestly, give it January 2020. Spider-Man's back, baby.
Say give it one more week.
Yeah.
I don't know. The egos involved here are so strong. I don't know who would possibly yield.
Iger's going to be like, get it done, Feige. Get it fucking done.
Yeah,
But this is
what's
the thing. This is where Disney has the advantage in that they have so many IPs that are so fucking valuable. Like, how many movies can they put out that are going to hit that $1 billion mark?
Yeah,
They're
so
like, I
fuck
don't give a fuck.
Spider-Man.
Fine. Have Venom.
Yeah.
Have Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
I agree.
We'll watch you just fucking sink. And I genuinely think that that's the way that they're going to play it. If this gets resolved, it's almost certainly going to be Sony acquiescing to Disney. Maybe not for the full 50%, but they'll come back to the table, I reckon, because it is far more valuable for them than it is for Disney.
I think the final thing I'll say on this is I believe there's a clause in Sony's contract that says they have to put out a Spider-Man film every X many years.
Yeah,
I believe it's 3 or 4 or 5.
It was pretty much however long we had between the Raimi films and the
2007 and
Garfield films.
2011, I believe.
Yeah, so it's something like every 5 years or every 4 years.
So now, back in when the Garfield one happened, the cinematic universe concept hadn't really gotten off the ground. Like, I don't believe at that stage we'd even got Avengers 1. Now the movie landscape is in a much different spot. So the idea of building out what they tried to do with Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2, Sinister Six, Venom, Morbius the Living Vampire, Kraven the Motherfucker, it's a lot more. The Sump in 2019 and on has a lot more ability to become a legitimate cinematic universe, I believe.
And it's spinning off one already. Like it is in the public's eye, he's part of the MCU. He'll always be part of the MCU as long as they have the Tom Holland Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Maybe he just won't be appearing in it.
And you've got that MCU seal of approval on the tone of what they did with him and the presentation.
But that's my point. The tone of what they did with him is very much at odds with the tone of the Sump.
Well, the Sump is going to evolve now. The Sump is, if this stays the way it is, the Sump, the dark, Morbius the Living Vampire, and it's not going to be that. It's going to change, and
they're just going to drop Morbius.
No, but the initial films will be the same, but it'll probably kind of become more lighthearted. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll have a developing story, obviously.
Yeah, so we'll return to this every week for the next 2 years, probably. So, more big news. And it's a big week when this is the second story.
Yeah, Jesus.
Lana Wachowski, Keanu Reeves, and Carrie-Ann Moss have all signed on for a new Matrix film. We have a quote here. Many of the ideas Lily and I explored 20 years ago about our reality are even more relevant now. I'm very happy to have these characters back in my life and grateful for another chance to work with my brilliant friends. That's from Lana herself. This is really cool. Everyone's reacted really positively to this.
Part of me is ecstatic, and part of me is cynical on this one.
So
part of me says, like, Keanu's so in vogue right now. Warner Brothers are like, get that shit done.
Yeah. We've been hearing rumblings of this for a while now.
We have. So another concern here is the fact that our boy Larry Fishburne's not in the cast, but I've heard rumors that there is going to be a time travel aspect or a prequel aspect, or there's going to be a new kind of cycle through the whole Matrix where Keanu may be taking more of that Morpheus role.
Also, this is just the initial announcement.
Yeah.
They haven't announced any other to the cast.
True that.
And also there is the fact that most people hate the second 2 of the 3 movies, and spoilers, these 2 characters both died in the last one.
Spoilers.
Yeah. It's funny because last week you guys got asked a question about what films shouldn't be touched, and this actually came up as not necessarily for as there shouldn't be like a reboot, or there shouldn't be a remake, of The Matrix, and this isn't technically a remake as I understand it, but it is eerily close. I
think they may even take like a Force Awakens approach here.
Potentially.
It's almost like the same narrative, but people have been swapped roles.
But the problem is that there was a bit of a finality, whether it was good or bad. There was a finality to the Matrix series with those characters in them, and this feels very servicey in the sense of, like, as you said, Keanu Reeves is very much at the forefront of media, and everyone absolutely loves him at the moment. This does feel very opportune on that, and what we're seeing a lot. Haven't seen a lot for the last 10 years, but particularly with Disney's new, strategy of just getting old IPs, that's the thing to do now. Grab a strong IP, rebrand, like not even rebrand it, sorry, but like remake it. Don't change too much shit. Let's work off the nostalgia that people have for the
20
things
years.
and pump it out. That's what, sorry, not 10 years, maybe 20 years or however long you want to go, but that does not always make for a good film. That might make for a successful film, but not necessarily a good one.
I guess more in favor of this is, like I said, no one likes the sequels, so why the hell not? Like, it's not like we're tarnishing a perfect brand here.
But I'll give it that.
I think that you have said in the past that just, own up to the, I guess, the movies that you've made or the sequels that you've had. You don't get to just, like, rewrite shit.
But I think that's what they're doing. Like, this is the original creator coming back with the original stars to make what is presumably a sequel of some kind. And I said earlier in the year I rewatched the trilogy more recently, and I think it is my favorite film trilogy of all time. I think that's justifiable if only on the strength of the first one, which I think is one of the greatest films ever made. But
agree.
Even the sequels present so much in terms of just groundbreaking action and ideas and visuals.
You got to chuck Animatrix in there as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
I honestly still remember in is the last one Revolutions?
Yeah.
The
Agent Smith fight.
No, the fuck. What are those robot things?
Macks.
Sentinels.
Yeah. No, the ones that they get into, and they have all the guns and all that. I remember that being like such a cool kind of action sequence.
It went on forever, man. He's
for
shooting
ages.
that ceiling for like 45 minutes.
I remember not giving a shit about that first time I watched it. And most recently, I was like, wow, this is so beautiful.
I think I've only
visually.
seen that once, and it's maybe time for a revisit.
Give it a go.
Yeah.
Because it's funny, my last rewatch was maybe 1-2 years ago, and the second film really stood out to me as being so much better than I expected. And this time, the third one did, which was a really nice experience.
How wonky were the CG effects in that Agent Smith fight, though?
They're like, it's yes and no. Like, some of it is very rubbery, and a lot of it is really impressive. And if nothing else, they are shooting for the fences. Like I said, so much groundbreaking stuff in those movies.
When it cuts away from the wide shots, when he's really rubbery, to the close hand-to-hand combat, it's fucking impressive. I think Corridor Crew talked about it.
Yeah, they did some stuff on it.
Yeah. No, if this could be second to Matrix in my rankings of that film trilogy, which basically goes 1, 2, 3. If it could go 1, 4, 2, 3, I'd be happy.
Then it's justified.
I'd be happy.
Do you think there's ever a chance that it could go 4, 1, 2, 3?
Oh man!
I mean, that movie's on such a pedestal. Like that's why I asked. Like, is there anything that could dethrone that?
I don't know. I might even like Blade Runner 2049 more than Blade Runner.
I was about to ask you which you put
Blade Runner.
Where?
And I love Blade Runner. So it's
get out of my head, George. Ben, would you like to answer the question that I didn't actually get a chance to ask?
What about Blade Runner?
Blade Runner or Blade Runner 2049?
Well, we've got a double screening on this weekend that I might go
check
watch
out,
it.
Because
And see what I
I'm
think.
going to go check that out.
I showed my girlfriend both of them in relatively quick succession. And I have to say how much I fucking like. I mean, I love both of them, but I really fucking love 2049.
Yeah, I think a lot of elements I like of the second one more than the first, but I think it kind of peters out towards the ending.
The first one?
The second one.
Oh, sorry, the second one. Yeah, the ending's a little bit, or the kind of...
With the car fight scene in
Still
the
a little
ocean.
fight in a car, yeah.
I love it.
I actually quite like the car fight scene. I don't quite like the justification of all the fucking robots getting together and being like, we're going to have a rebellion. And like, the fuck is this storyline? Where the hell did this come from?
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways.
Anyway, Wachowski's always interesting to watch.
It's interesting that they're not together.
Yeah. This is the
pairing
first
up.
movie they've done apart, as
Interesting.
far as I know. Have you guys seen that? Have you guys seen Cloud Atlas?
Yes.
What do you think?
Not the biggest fan.
Yeah,
I found it very esoteric and didn't quite latch on to any of the narratives, but I loved the concept. I really wanted it to work.
I remember watching it and being really impressed with the. I spent a lot of the film going kind of like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, what are they getting at? And just the way that it wrapped up, the way that it kind of brought everything together, I was really kind of quite satisfied with that.
I remember you saying how much you like the Asian makeup on the white actors.
Yep, that particularly. I mean, did that cause controversy? I don't remember this.
A little bit less than it would nowadays, I think.
Yeah, I mean, of all the egregious kind of issues around that, I think this movie probably has one of the best excuses for it. Like you have seen it, George, right?
Certainly.
Yeah. Like the whole point was that
we don't need to get into it too deeply.
Are we talking about The Matrix or what the fuck?
Jupiter Ascending?
I don't ever remember that coming.
Got a massive soft spot for Jupiter Ascending.
It's fun.
Do you really?
Massive
It's
soft
real
spot.
dumb fun.
I think it becomes a little unbearable towards the end.
Yeah.
But there's some really, really fun stuff in there.
Yeah.
And Eddie Redmayne,
Oh my god.
I just think that is
one of the best,
so
worst performances ever.
weird
Yeah.
That I kind of love it.
Yeah. He does the quintessential terrible performance, which he only whispers and then shouts. Like, it's all he's got. It's completely binary. All right, finishing up on a fucking huge one here. Bond 25 has been titled No Time to Die.
Da-na-da-na.
So one of the favorite words of the franchise, die, is in there. They got that there.
Got to get time in there as well.
They've been real coy with this one.
This seems like a very fitting title and probably the most Bond title out of all the Daniel Craig ones. I mean, Casino Royale. But Quantum of Solace, that was very techie sounding. Skyfall as well.
I really like Skyfall.
They're not typical. I don't know. This one is like very, very on the nose Bond.
I think after Spectre, I think the grammar's wrong in this title. It should be no comma, time to die. Given how we all felt about that last one.
Mr. Bond,
No,
time to die.
But yeah, that is fun. Are you guys in any way excited for this?
No.
Keeping in mind that it's bringing back his girlfriend from the last one, Anne Blofeld.
No. And Fukunaga's on this, who I love.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, it means nothing to me.
Yeah. And I
Like,
didn't
it
love
should, like-
Maniac. I didn't love Maniac. So,
Yeah, this one just kind of.
it's gonna
After
it's gonna
Spectre,
come
man.
out, and I'm gonna watch it, and I'm gonna leave the cinema. Then I'm gonna come home and go to bed. And
I
that'll
will
be
watch
that.
Skyfile. I will
This
watch
summer.
Yeah.
Skyfile.
I'll watch Skyfall maybe once a year. Like there's something
Wow.
about that movie that I really love.
Mm.
I don't know. I
I
can't.
don't know what it is.
I don't.
I
like
watch
it's
it,
just.
and
I
watch.
love watching it.
And I watch.
It's a terrible movie. I don't know why I like it so much.
I really, really enjoy Skyfall. But this one just nothing.
The most exciting part is this franchise is ending and we can start anew.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What time is it?
It's trailer time.
Whoa.
What do we got up?
We've got first of all El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie.
Now, what is this exactly?
Fucked if I know.
I believe it's a Breaking Bad movie.
A Netflix movie.
I love-
think at the top it says a Netflix movie, El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie. Like, make your goddamn mind up, Sonny.
My favorite part about this is that the trailer is designed to be, ooh, what am I? And then the final words he goes like, I'm not going to help you find Jesse Pinkman. And you're like, but I know what the title of this is. Like, I know it's a Breaking Bad
Oh my
movie.
God,
Like,
it's a
fuck
Breaking
you.
Bad movie.
I clicked on the thumbnail, man.
This is like the dumbest, like, I get what you're going for here, but we already know it's Breaking Bad.
A lot of trailers do that, and it's a shame in the YouTube age that we can't actually watch them for the first time in a cinema and be like, what is this? 'Cause you just
Exactly,
sit down and be
right,
like,
yeah.
I know what this is.
Apart from that,
First up, who's Breaking Bad fan?
I
watched it.
didn't.
Were you a fan?
I watched it all.
Okay, you weren't that into it.
I mean, not to the level that a lot of people hold it up to. I really liked it.
Because I was up there like when it was out. I loved that shit, man.
Yeah.
Have you've seen a few episodes?
I've seen a few seasons actually.
Okay, but you didn't finish it up.
think I got into either season 2 or 3.
Okay.
Pretty early on, and it was about halfway through the season. It was one of those seasons where it slowed down pretty severely.
You were like, this is no Peaky Blinders.
Yeah.
This is no Justified.
Yeah. I don't know why Peaky Blinders is my thing now. Like Justified, I get.
yeah,
I talked about that for like 9
So
weeks.
whatever
10
your
weeks
next show
straight.
is.
It's just that's all I watch now.
This is no Lone Survivor.
No, but my question
all
here.
right, I have to ask: have I ever talked about Lone Survivor?
Yes.
only in us.
Only in my
picking on you
mind.
about
In
it.
your mind, does it like that's what you imagine that I watch every night before I go to bed, and I like salute the American flag,
Even though you're Canadian.
even though I'm Canadian for some reason.
Fuck yes.
What
I
do you-
love that.
I would love one day to know what you think my day is like.
God bless North America.
Northern America.
Very North America.
Mark Wahlberg is a fucking hero.
Boston. Boston.
Fuck.
Wahlburgers. Okay, fuck you.
But honestly, that's a masterpiece. Never.
My question is the reason why I want to give you context because I feel as though when did Breaking Bad end? 2014, 2015? Like this is done. This is not vital, and I don't feel like with how amped I was on this show, I felt nothing when I was watching this trailer.
Yes and no. We have had Better Call Saul pretty much since Breaking Bad ended.
Very true.
To today. So
and a
it's
lot of
not a
people
dormant
say that's
franchise.
better than Breaking
People
Bad.
love that show. I only watched like 6 episodes. I did like it. But
That's very true.
What was the last movie that you watched that was based on a TV show that you enjoyed or you thought was good?
Oh man, now you like Pokemon. Like, fuck man, like you got to give me some prep on those kind of questions.
Yeah.
I
How
can
many
give
of
you
those are
one. Like for me, Serenity, I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I can't really think of one because like it just seems like such a trap, right? Like these TV shows are, long form in the sense of you can have big season wide arcs and all that kind of stuff. And a movie just kind of seems irrelevant in the whole process of that. Like even if you're talking about a TV series that has half an hour episodes, that's 4 episodes and you've effectively had a movie. You can have like 20 of those.
So on paper, yes, it sounds like a terrible idea, as did Better Call Saul, a prequel about a side character from one of the most praised dramatic TV series ever. Vince Gilligan is a real interesting guy, though, and I gotta think that there is a reason he's doing this, and if it's worth it to him, I'd be interested. As much as I never had any interest in seeing Jesse Pinkman again after that show ended.
This is literally one of those things where if it's good, it's good. I'm not going in there with any sort of... I'm not expecting anything because the show was the show and it wrapped up. And Better Call Saul happened, but Jesse and Walt and all those guys, that narrative ended from my viewpoint. So
Now, how do you guys feel about Bryan Cranston coming back?
yeah, like what's going to happen with that? That's a concern. That's a concern, tarnishing the legacy, going back, double dipping. Sometimes it's like, hey, Lance Armstrong, if he hadn't ran that Tour de France, he wouldn't have got caught. Sometimes you got to leave it, man. Sometimes you got to say, hey, we've had a great time.
If only you were there to talk to Lance at the time.
Bro, if he'd just given me a call, he would be sweet.
Maybe Vince should have given you a call too.
Maybe.
We'll find out. We'll find out very soon. What, October 11th?
Wait, what's that? Vince?
Were you going to answer your watch on the wrong handle?
My phone rings after I
well
answer the phone. Wow.
I don't know how phones work. All right, next trailer is Antlers. Fuck knows what this movie is.
This is a juicy little horror film.
I cannot believe you. Believe me, everyone. I cannot.
Is this slam poetry?
Are you having a
believing
stroke?
you and me, where I am living in a tree. No, but like Antlers.
He's breaking. He's breaking.
He's finally broken. Antlers broke him. This is a sick trailer. I'll leave it at that.
Repeating words in a corner. Do I know me? Do I know you?
Yes,
Come
Antlers.
back to us, George.
This looks friggin' awesome.
Yeah.
Del Toro's name's
And that's
up there, and I'm like,
that's enough to get you jazzed anytime. Yeah, nice simple trailer. It's just a kid reading a story in class that is clearly reflective of his home life, which looks incredibly disturbing. This looks like some weird creature feature. We just had Underwater a couple of weeks ago. I'm hoping this is some kind of return. Like we're moving away from zombies, maybe finally we're going back to monster movies.
Yeah, it did remind me a little bit of that. I'm very much pumped for this.
Yeah, very evocative.
It reminded me of the in Pet Sematary. There's that the kind of like creature in the woods, and I can't remember. It's based off some
Wendigo.
Yeah, the Wendigo, and you get a couple of themes around in history and folklore about like kind of that big tree antler thing. And I just love the aesthetic of that. I think that's really cool. And there is a little part of me that kind of hopes that that's what's featuring in this.
You got a little glimpse of something at the end.
Yeah.
And it looked wicked.
And I thought that was great editing. I thought it gave you just enough of a glimpse to see the silhouette and gone.
And with after seeing Del Toro's last, not having seen, but seeing the images from his last project, which was what is it? Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Is that the one?
Yep.
What it's called? His kind of creature features in that look so terrifying and so cool, just as a standalone thing, that I am really excited to see how he approaches this.
Yeah, his productions always feature the coolest kind of practical monsters.
Yeah, they just feel very visceral and creepy in that. So
Real.
I'm on board.
Numéro 3.
Numéro 3 is Lucy in the Sky.
So we reviewed the first trailer of this not too long ago, and I was kind of not that amped. And then this trailer kicks off, and it felt so uncannily similar to Gravity. It's kind of like, here we go in space, looking at the Earth.
That was weird. I let out a groan. On that first shot, just because it's
been done. We've seen it. It's been explored. But then this trailer starts to pick up.
That's the review of the first 3 seconds of the trailer.
Yeah, and then it starts to pick up. And from that audible groan, I went into a lot more of a curious state. And I'm really, really keen to check this out. I think Natalie Portman is so watchable on screen. She just really brings things to life. And this is obviously a very troubled character and a very troubled story. I'm in there, man. I'm always into. I love those stories of like the price of success, or what you have to do to take to get where you want your dreams to achieve your dreams.
I mean, you might actually, speaking of that, you might enjoy Hummingbird.
Okay.
Because that's a bit of a theme around that. That's cool. It's, I suppose, worth checking out.
Is that the Canadian show you watched when you were a kid?
No, Hummingbird with Jesse Eisenberg, and you said that it looked fucking.
Sorry. So I was.
That was called Corner Gas.
Oh,
check that shit.
Corner Gas.
I was sold on this far before any trailer came out, because this is from writer-director Noah Hawley, creator of TV's Fargo and Legion. One of the most talented and interesting guys working
he knows how
today.
His productions look so sharp, man.
Unbelievably gorgeous. I'm going to go home and watch Legion Season 2, I think. I love what he's doing with aspect ratios in here, and just the kind of fantastical elements, hallucinations, or be whatever they may. I think this looks so cool.
Yeah, completely. We're talking about Lucy in the Sky, yeah?
Lucy in the Sky,
yeah. Cool.
No, I'm talking about the Canadian show that he watched when he was a kid.
Oh, hello there. Like some Marowini.
I don't even know what accent that is.
I mean, either.
Speaking of, our next trailer is for Greener Grass.
Grassy Green.
Grassy Green.
What
the hell is this
trailer, man?
Fucking, I need to see this immediately, though.
Fuck, man, I haven't laughed that hard. It's very absurd.
Were we laughing? Like, I think it was like this kind of scared, kind of like, what the
taken
fuck?
aback. Haven't
shock and awe.
Something new.
Yeah, I mean, this
it had a very soft look to it. Like it was like this sort of like picturesque small town,
very bright, but then clearly something dark going on.
Yeah,
really.
There's a very fine line with absurdist comedy, and I don't know how you achieve it, because anyone can just do something random, and you can make a movie with enough random shit to be in it you can kind of pass it off as absurdist comedy but
It's gotta
there's just nothing
connect.
to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think I've always thought the masters of absurdist comedy is still Monty Python, where like their stuff was as kind of left of center, like just all over the place as you can get, while also still kind of feeling as though it belonged there. And
it often had something to say.
Yeah, and when this trailer started, I was kind of worried that this was just going to be weird for the sake of weird. But as the trailer goes on, I felt that kind of,
Intrigue.
that intrigue and the fact that there seems to be some kind of connectivity in the absurdity of what was being presented to me. And I was like, that kind of grabs my interest.
Yeah, I wanted to uncover what's going on.
Yeah, it just didn't feel like stuff being thrown for the sake of being thrown at you. It was there was.
What is this society? Who are
Yeah.
these people? What's going on here?
I'm so interested in seeing this with a big audience. I think this would be a riot.
Yeah.
Completely.
And finally, we have Rambo: Last Blood. As our resident Rambo fan, George, do you want to take this away?
Yeah. So Rambo, we're back. We're back for number.
How many of you
number
watched?
5. Yeah, Rambo.
Isn't this 6?
Yeah,
Is it
Rambo,
5 or
man.
6? 5. How many Rambos have you actually watched?
I have watched 1 or 2 Rambos, maybe 1.5 Rambos.
I've watched one Rambo,
Which one have you watched?
Rocky 4.
That's funnier than it should have been.
No, First Blood,
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
the great one.
the good one. Yeah, you've watched First Blood.
Yeah,
as well.
and I think I've seen bits and pieces of number 4.
I was
think-
a little bit. I've just like done the professor well. I watched the first one. I remember my dad showing it to me, and we
Sit down, son.
Don't go to war, son.
Yeah. We watched the first
hey,
one. And,
Connor,
and
we're going to watch Rambo.
I remember him like prefacing it by saying like this is a really genuine movie about it's an action film, but it's also there's kind of a genuine thread about veterans and the struggle that they faced and the discrimination that they faced and all that kind of stuff. I remember watching it and being really impressed with that movie. I was like, oh, this is so cool. It's like a mix of guerrilla warfare and
I was going to say Home Alone, but that's
yeah, it
that's
is.
where
Well,
my
I
mind
suppose
is at,
it
I
is.
guess.
And then I remember I was watching the second and third ones and him being like, these are less so serious movies about, and they were fucking ridiculous.
Little 6-year-old Connor, like, I feel like there's some nuance missing
Yeah.
here.
It was those movies are honestly the silliest movies.
Daddy, what happened to the cinematography?
Yeah, it was like
What happened to the PTSD thing?
yeah, I still remember honestly, me and my dad pissed ourselves watching this, but there's a scene in I think the second or third one where he puts gunpowder into his wounds and then he like lights it on fire, but it comes like the fire shoots out both ends of the wound to cauterize it. I remember looking at that being like, that's the most fucking ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my
Getting
life.
shit done, bro.
Yeah.
Don't be hating.
I like that those movies were entertaining in a very different way, in a very like just joyous way, I suppose.
Are you going to be entertained for this one?
Not really.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I
the
feel
most
that.
recent one that came out felt a bit like it wasn't serious like the first one. It wasn't goofy like the second and third ones. It just kind of felt like they were trying to take they took everything that was bad about the second and third ones and they took everything that was like and like I don't know. They just took the serious tone out of the first one and the kind of plots out of the second and third one and mixed it together, and that was yeah, it's just bad.
Also, this trailer took out the Old Town Road from the last trailer. So
Exactly,
it's
which
just
was the best
failing
part
on
of that
every
trailer.
level, yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't pay the licensing.
Also, they got rid of his mullet. It's just Rocky now. It's Rocky with guns. He's not.
I mean, it's just silly.
Yeah.
That being said, it does look very much like Home Alone, except he's really killing folks.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting.
There we have it. Question of the week. Let's cap it off. We have
Oh my
2
goodness.
questions. Thank you guys for sending these in. We love hearing from you. So hit us up in the comments on YouTube, or you can also hit us up in the DMs on Instagram and Facebook. We'll find them at some point. All right, this one's from Taylor Nicole. Thanks for your question. If you could be a main character in a movie franchise, who would you be? Benny.
I'll pass to Connor.
I think I've talked about this I guess. Oh, damn it! It's not technically a franchise. Sorry, you have to come back to me. I was gonna. They were trying to set it up as a franchise. Do you remember Hayden Christensen in Jumper?
Yeah.
Oh, Jumper.
I think I've mentioned this before.
I'm pretty sure
But
you have.
that seems that would be a superpower that I would love to have, and I feel like I would love to be in that universe where I could just like teleport anywhere.
It's so interesting because I remember I watched that movie way later after it came out than anyone else in the last couple of years. I don't know why. And I remember having a similar thought for the first half and being like, hey, this is really cool. And then when you get to like Sam Jackson's character coming in and just being horrible, and there's this whole organization that hunts these people down, I'm like, oh, this doesn't seem fun anymore.
Yeah.
Execute.
Like, oh my goodness. So you have to come back to me because now I've kind of lost because it technically has to be a franchise. If it wasn't a franchise, then that one.
Benny?
I don't know if this is a cop out or not, but I can't think of anything else right now. And honestly, I would just really want to be Spider-Man.
Yeah. I mean, web slinging,
Yeah,
flying around the city.
I know his life sucks most of the time, but there's just something so appealing about.
Yeah.
about
Are you
being that
Spider-Man in
character.
the first Raimi film where everyone is depressed?
Yeah, it's a really
'Cause
sad Spider-Man.
That's really going to be rough on
Everything
you.
goes wrong for everyone all the time.
Yeah. Just constantly depressed and
Yeah.
sad and yeah.
But cool powers.
That's the upside.
Uh,
I'm going to do something similar and take a leaf out of this episode's book and say Aquaman, the Momoa version. I'd love to be Aquaman. Floating around the seas, cruising around. Awesome.
But you
I
live
love it.
in the Snyderverse.
I live in the James Wan-verse.
Mm,
yeah.
that's part of the
No, I'd love that,
Snyderverse.
man. Like, go to some lagoons, chill out,
You
grab
don't
a
wanna-
couple cocktails.
You don't want to be in a Star War?
I was going to say Luke Skywalker, but that's the most boring answer ever, man. So I'm going to
Doesn't
say...
seem like he's had a great life.
I'm
Yeah,
going to say...
it's pretty rough.
I'm going to say Jason Momoa's Aquaman. I think that would be really cool.
It would be fun.
And he likes...
Surely there's
he
something
likes
that we can do
whiskey.
better than that.
He likes whiskey. I like whiskey.
Yeah.
Oh.
I take it back. I would be Andy in Toy Story, but I would like befriend the toys and let them like.
That's a terrifying world. You don't want to be in that world.
Yeah, no, I do because then I'd have
Be
a
the
little army of
sociopath.
toys. Can you imagine what you could achieve with this? Like, if you were the
You
only
don't know
person
they're
that
alive.
knew that. Well, in this version, I am Andy,
Oh, you
so I
cracked
know
it. You figured it out.
I figured it out.
You've willed
Why have
them
you
to
figured it
life.
out? How have you figured this
Because
out?
I've been transported into Andy's body, like in this kind of
Okay, so you-
mechanism.
right,
I am
right, right.
Andy.
Or you actually are in the Toy Story universe where the toys are alive, but you are so crazy that you think they move, but they don't actually ever move.
actually a
as
horror
they
film.
do.
It's actually a horror film about like schizophrenia.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Like it's kind of like Shutter
But
Island
the toys
style.
do move, but you never see
paranoia.
them move. And
Also-
still a whole toys.
Also, you've altered the question slightly again. It said the main character in a franchise, so you'd
Andy
have to
is
be
the main,
Woody.
Andy
You'd have to be
is
Woody.
arguably the main character because they're all in his mind.
He's not arguably.
These are all a figment of his
Protagonist.
imagination in the schizophrenia version of your story.
so I hope
This is a nice little kind
Yeah.
of segue into the next question.
I hope we answered that well. And we've got a final one here from Media Macks. Do you collect any other film memorabilia? Because they were loving the collection of hot toys that we have on set.
And by we mean
And they belong to Ben.
Ben.
Never would have guessed it, would you?
This is very much a Ben question. Well, actually, let's get George. Did you ever have any kind of movie memorabilia or
You
toys?
got
or
a nice set of Power Rangers coins.
Well, yes, supplied by my good friend Benjamin Smith. No, I've never been a really big collector guy. I've collected media and Blu-rays, but I've never been like a figurine collector. I've always been too nervous. Like which one do I get first, and will people judge me if I put them out?
Yes.
I had two pieces, or like I had like two kind of things that I would do. Like I remember I had a Mechagodzilla figurine, which I fucking loved as a kid. I thought that thing was the coolest looking thing ever.
But that wasn't necessarily memorabilia.
It was the original suit.
It was the
original
original suit,
costume.
yeah.
He-
I mean,
he
that
sleeps in it.
by that definition, these aren't actually memorabilia either.
I mean,
this is the actual Iron Man suit
that is actual Robert Downey Jr.
pedantic
when you
asshole.
drop 4 digits on these things, then you get to call them memorabilia.
Yeah, okay, my bad. Then no, I have never owned.
Precisely, Connor.
Did I? I wanted Sting. I remember when Lord of the Rings.
WCW, sorry. Sting. Did you say Sting?
Sting from Lord of the Rings.
From the Police, the singer.
Yes.
What is Sting? He was in Dune.
I just have him sit in my room and just be like, "Oh, cool, it's Sting."
God, can I leave now? No.
Listen, this guy collects shit all. What do you collect?
Yeah, you don't get to say things you don't have but
stop
want.
talking. Let him talk.
So I got these bad boys. I got a few more Hot Toys at home. Some I've sold off. They're kind of a rotating thing.
What else do you have other than these
mentioned,
ones?
That's news and
Don't know.
quiz me. I don't want to ruin the surprise of when they might rotate in.
I vibe that.
I'm also mentioned earlier, I'm a huge Ninja Turtles fan. I have an absolutely giant, shameful Ninja Turtles collection.
Yes, you do.
I also have a really big Gremlins collection, which is a bit random, but...
Your collection is actually quite a bit... Like, it's big, but it's smaller than it used to be.
Oh, yeah. I've been spending
back.
a lot of this year selling stuff off because you just need to become an adult at some point, unfortunately. I also have working in a movie theater, I have a huge movie poster collection. I have about 200 under my bed, and a bunch that I've kind of bought over the years.
That's going to be a sizable collection, man.
It is so hard to move. I just moved last year, and trying to move a stack of like 200 posters flat in like a cover, it is ridiculous. It was the hardest thing. I moved the fridge and everything else fine. Other than that, like I said, I'm trying to lessen the collection these days, so I'm moving away from objects a lot. That's about it, really.
Digital memorabilia.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I do have Leonardo's sword from the first Ninja Turtles movie. A replica.
Okay. Not the real one.
Not the real thing, unfortunately. Can't buy those here.
Come on, man.
I'm sorry.
Thought you were a true fan.
Fake fan.
Damn it. How am I going to do this outro? Well, that's
Just
it.
cut it there.
Well, that's it. That's the end of the episode. That's the end of the fucking episode. As I said, guys, send in your questions. Our D23 episode is up now. Go check that out for some Star Wars news and all that good stuff. And we'll be back next week. And I believe next week, it's Chapter 2. We've been waiting for that one a long time, so our review will be up then. And it's going to be awesome, Connor.
It will be awesome.
And it's going to be awesome, Benji.
It will be awesome.
It will be awesome.
You look a weird.
That's so strange.
It will be awesome.
It will be awesome. That's got to be our catchphrase.
Can we say goodbye like that, even in like every day?
It's got to
be. Bye, Connor. It will be awesome. Okay, I'll see you later then.
Please leave me alone.